Hey, thanks for tuning in. We are LivingFit, your trainer's trainer. We not only have education courses for trainers to upgrade their game, but we have full on follow along programs, workouts, exercise breakdowns, nutrition plans, and fitness equipment for you to reach your fitness goals. Now, enjoy the show. What's going on, everybody? Aaron Guyett, Master Coach of Battle Ropes and the Education Director here at LivingFit. And I have the incredible pleasure of having Jason Khalipa on the show today. So Jason Khalipa, he's owner of NCFIT Collective, which has NCFIT app, the NCFIT gym, the NCFIT partners. Oh, and also he was a CrossFit champion way back in 2008, which is nothing to bat an eye at all. And then he was also the Spirit of the Games. He won the Spirit of the Games award in 2009. So two questions for you, Jason. What is the Spirit of Games award of the Games award? And then what does NC stand for?
Yeah, so the Spirit of the Games award is an award given to someone at the games who exemplifies, for lack of a better term, the spirit of the sport, the spirit of what the competition is about. And so that year, I came in as the reigning champion. So this was in 2009. And the first event, I just really just failed. I basically took last place in the first event. And then I was able to kind of crawl my way back to fifth overall. And so they really looked at that as, hey, this guy embodies this concept of hard work and whatnot. And we're going to give him the Spirit of the Games award. So, I won the games in 2008, got the Spirit of the Games award in 2009. And then I was able to get back on the podium a couple more times in 13, 14, et cetera. And so it was a great run as a professional athlete in CrossFit. And NCFIT was originally NorCal CrossFit. And we rebranded about 6-7 years ago for a variety of reasons. But NC represents the actual location of Northern California, but it's starting to, or it has been, building up into more than that, right? We have our core values, we have our company, we have it. What our goal is to instill and inflict an emotion, and we are really about this idea of effort over everything. And so when we have someone see NC Fit, we don't necessarily want them to think like NorCal Fit. We want it to just embody this idea of like effort over everything and training and fitness.
Yeah, I love that. And I love, I think too often we forget that effort is a huge component in really any area and aspect of our lives, right? Whether it's relationships, communication, spiritual formation, physical formation, mental formation, right? All of those things. If we don't expend any effort, obviously it's not going to go anywhere. So I love that concept. And I know before we were talking, before we started recording, we were talking about watching paint dry, because you asked, what are those, long distance or marathons or something. And I was like, oh no, it's kettlebell sport. It's like watching paint dry. But talk about effort, right? It's 10 minutes of snatches nonstop, or jerks nonstop, or long cycle nonstop. And it is just brutal, which I know any CrossFit athlete totally understands brutal.
So for 10 minutes, I'm just curious about this. At some loads, people are going for 10 minutes nonstop, right?
Yeah, it's absolutely nonstop. And so the professional level is 232 kilograms for jerk and for long cycle. And long cycle is basically a clean and a jerk, or a clean and a press. Obviously, if you press it, in about 5 minutes, you'll be done pressing because you'll bonk out, right? Muscle failure. So you have to use your legs to drive that. And same, that's obviously same with all of it. In order to really last that long with 232s or 270-pound kettlebells or 170-pound kettlebell, you have to figure out how to economize movement, how to make it efficient as possible, but then also how to use the strength that, obviously our legs last much longer than our upper body tends to. So yeah, it's definitely a fun sport. And it's a lesson in suffering for sure.
Yeah, I want to learn more about that. It's really interesting to me, specifically the grip strength and the stamina and like the desire to actually want to do that, like 10 minutes holding kettlebells does not sound very desirable, but that's great. I mean, kudos to you for getting after it. I love that.
Yeah, it was funny. So coming out of the Marine Corps for me, kettlebell sport was a great answer to that like sort of challenge that I was looking for, that now I no longer have it in the Marine Corps. I no longer, get to sit out in the dirt and, suffer in pain, carrying heavy weights and shooting rounds or getting shot at, right, when I was overseas or whatever. So for me, it was like, it was, hey, here's some heavy weights, and then let me throw you underwater, is what it felt like, because you're just constantly trying to gasp for air and figure out ways to be able to have enough, oxygen and get out the CO2 and be able to move and not have a failure set and be able to last the entire 10 minutes. So it was really became more about like mental resilience just as much as, this physiological wonder of trying to economize and whatnot. So, of course, that just totally perked my interest, coming out of, having suffering and struggle being sort of a mainstay, and then you jump into regular society and you got to go look for it, kind of a thing, right? Which is obviously why CrossFit does so well.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I'm a big fan of exposing yourself to adversity and challenges in life, right? Like what you're talking about. You chose to come out of the Marine Corps, and obviously when you're, downrange, when you're overseas, when you're doing something, there's a lot of challenges that come up that are much more dire than at home. Those life and death situations. But I think at home, we get very comfortable with a lot of things we're doing. We have air conditioning, we have our coats, we have, we do everything in our power to alleviate any discomfort throughout the duration of the day. And then all of a sudden, when discomfort or adversity or challenges hit, we're not as positioned to handle them. And so that's one of the benefits, obviously, of fitness or kettlebell swing, whatever you want to call it, that I think, carries over into real life so extremely well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If you can microdose that trauma, right? Microdose that pain or that suffering where it's not catastrophic and life ending, but it is life changing. Yeah, I think that's amazing. Obviously something that you're about, I looked at the NCFIT collective, I looked at the app, I looked at the gyms, and the fact that you're partnering with so many as well. I'd love to kind of open the hood of that a little bit and kind of see. I know you're actually there in Madison, Wisconsin too, sure, at the CrossFit Games for Reebok, but love to just open up the hood. What kind of stemmed, this idea of bringing an app and then bringing in partners, and how does it exactly work?
Yeah, so I mean, our business, NCFIT, we were founded in NorCal. We opened up a brick and mortar location that most people are typically looking at when it comes to functional training facility. Over the years, we then started opening more gyms, and we created relationships with a few companies. So we then started exploring corporate wellness. So at the time, let's just say it's 2011, we had, about 15, 20 locations all over the world doing corporate wellness or owned and operated by us. And we started saying, man, how are we going to be able to keep consistency between all these locations? I would go to a Starbucks one place and you go to a Starbucks somewhere else. They're relatively similar. Mm-hmm. If you have a better barista or a worse barista, of course you have a better or worse experience, but they're going to be pretty much the same if you get a latte one place or another. But when it came to fitness, and especially for us, we have locations in Shenzhen, China, in, Mexico, and in the United States. And so when we were trying to balance consistency, we were having a really difficult time. And so instead of using Google Docs and all this stuff, we then just created our own app for our own team, where every day our coaches would receive a daily video on how to coach today and a very, very in-depth plan. This is how you warm up. This is what to look for. These are the scaling options. And so we rolled that out to our team. And what we found is that other gym owners needed it as well. And so we then started selling that. And that's called the NCFIT Collective, where it's session plans, programming for gym owners and coaches that I believe are world-class, because we use them for all of our gyms and then we sell them to other gym owners. So we have brick and mortar, corporate wellness, and then our digital model. Our digital model, we have gym owner ones, like I just said. And we also have an end consumer app that we just launched about 6 weeks ago that I'm really proud of. It's, for lack of a better term, the equivalent or on track to be the functional training version of like a Peloton. That's follow along on-demand content is where we're going for the end consumer. And then we have our B2B side.
I love that. Yeah, it's so smart because it's instead of the SOP that's written out that nobody's going to look at anyways, right? We'll all pretend we're going to look at it, but we're not going to look at it. It's like you have a live kind of almost follow along. Hey, this is how you're going to coach. SOP manual, but in a way that's palpable and also digestible. It's like, oh yeah, I'll go on and I'll watch a 5, 10, 15-minute video and I'll watch how to do what we're going to do so that I'm a better coach. And then my personality can shine because I'm, it's stood up on the scaffolding of what the quality pieces of a program is, what the quality pieces of coaching is, but now I can add my little zing or zang or whatever of my personality and really make it shine, which I think that's incredible. That's something that's direly needed in all areas of the fitness industry, I'm guessing.
Well, what I'll tell you is this too, is that one of the other challenges we found, and again, we have about 100 of our own coaches. And so if we're not doing a good job, we have to look out for our team. And then if it works for our team, then we can disseminate it out for others. But one of the challenges we're having is someone go through a level 1, let's just say it's a CrossFit seminar or a seminar on kettlebell or a seminar on Olympic lifting or whatever the seminar, name the seminar. And what we needed was a daily, weekly, monthly ongoing coaching development platform. And that's what we didn't have before. And so what our collective is a daily coaching development tool. So our coaches from today till next year, we could actually see a dramatic impact on how they perform versus if they just go to one seminar a year. So that's another way of us looking at it.
Yeah, exactly. I think oftentimes in the fitness industry, the model is like, okay, you get your cert and then you're good to go. Or if you're doing really good, it's like you get your cert and then you go get your annual seminar, or your annual summit or something like that. And you're good to go. But it's like, yeah, who is mentoring these men and women, on a daily basis to make sure that they're constantly sharpening that edge? Because every single coaching minute is a usable minute and a teachable minute. And man, what a brilliant solution to be able to kind of throw it under this umbrella that is the NCFIT collective. I love that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think for a while we've been trying to add value for gym owners and coaches for a long time, actually. And now we want to start speaking to the end user more. We want to be able to provide value. Our goal is, if you can't make it to one of our brick and mortar locations, and COVID, obviously kind of threw a wrench in everything, of course.
Yeah.
But if you can't make it into one of our brick and mortars, we'd love to still support you along your fitness journey. And that's why we have the NCFIT app. It's available on iOS and also on Android. And yeah, we're just fired up for sharing a lot of fitness with a lot of people. Yeah,
that's awesome. And the fact that you've reached the other side of the world, so to speak, right, by hitting China. And I saw your global map and you're seeing little pins kind of all over, which is pretty incredible. And so right now you're in Madison, Wisconsin, and you're there. Obviously, as a former CrossFit competitor, you've got probably a lot of wisdom and experience and education in this thing that is the CrossFit competition. So what made you decide to go out there? What are you out there doing? What's the plan while you're there if you're not competing?
Yeah, the sport's changed a lot over the years, and I'm looking to in the future, hopefully play a role in the sport of some type. I don't quite know what that looks like, but right now for this year, my scope is pretty straightforward. It's come in here, meet with gym owners that utilize our programs, take them out to coffee, say hello, and then I'm going to go coach classes for Reebok, every day, and just try and just do what I love for a living and just coach the hell out of a great class. That's why I'm at Madison. I really have no, I'm not even, I'll go into the events, but I'm not commentating. I'm none of that. I'm just here for Reebok and I'm here to talk to gym owners.
That's awesome. And then, and so do you have any plans, after Madison, or is it back to work, or what's sort of the future holding for Jason Khalipa?
Yeah, so obviously I'll head back home, and I've been traveling a decent amount lately. Been filming some content in the Jiu Jitsu space, filming a bunch of different content. But I will be heading back home and just focused on our business. We're getting one of our gyms back open in Mountain View, California. It's been shut down for 15, 16 months, so that's a major focus. We got to get home and make sure we're locked and ready for that.
That's awesome. And so you mentioned Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and I've been doing combat sports, if you will, and combat stuff for quite a while, most of my life at this point. But I just recently got into jiu-jitsu, and it looked, super intriguing. It looked really interesting, and I knew it would be helpful just from a cognitive standpoint, right? It's like body chess, right? Where you're thinking moves ahead, but then it's physical as well. And I really love that. And also one of my love languages is physical touch. So then there you go, right? It satisfies that if I need that. But what's been your experience with jiu-jitsu, and is that kind of something that you're leaning into in terms of actually teaching people technique and stuff, or more just fitness and conditioning and stuff for jiu-jitsu?
Yes, I mean, I've been doing it now for 5-6 years. I'm very involved. I love it. I love it from the self-defense perspective. I'm looking more so to bridge the gap between fitness and jiu-jitsu. People in jiu-jitsu don't talk about fitness. It's like a unspoken, like they just don't want to talk about it. And people in fitness rarely talk about things like self-defense or jiu-jitsu. And so I'm trying to bridge that gap between two things that I really care about. And, I don't claim to be an expert at jiu-jitsu. I'm a purple belt. I've been a purple belt for a while. So hopefully, compete here soon and maybe get my brown belt. But I'm not an expert in jiu-jitsu. I have a unique background in strength conditioning. I just want to try and bridge the gap between the two.
Yeah, I love that. And yeah, it's interesting. That's a completely observable gap. I remember back when I owned a gym in Orange County, California, we had Art of Jiu-Jitsu, and obviously they're really high level competitors. And they would come in
AOJ.
Exactly. They would come in and train. Some of them would train at our gym in Southern California. But what I found is that, like, the head guys, the main guys, they're like, no, you don't need fitness. You just need to drill harder. You just need to compete more. And while I think there is a truth to that, there's also this, but there also is this thing called adaptation and the biological process, and being able to harness that and understand stresses and heart rate variability and other programming aspects. I thought was just such a missing component for some of those, especially really high level people. But obviously the Mendez brothers do really well in competition. So maybe there's something to what they're saying as well, right?
I mean, here's the best way to look at it. Assuming all else is even, strength and conditioning will prevail. Assuming all else is even, meaning if your technical capabilities exceeds the other person, you're probably going to dominate them. I mean, it's just the way it goes in jiu-jitsu in particular. But at a high level, if you get to a level that you're professional, I mean, those guys are all technically advanced, and some are obviously a bit better than others, but you can make up a lot if you're stronger, faster, better conditioned. You'll never get tired. And so those are the things I want to start sharing is I don't want to take place, in particular, the strength side. You get a lot of conditioning work from work on the mat, but you don't really lift many loads and develop any type of dynamic, even kettlebell type swing stuff, hang cleans, back squat, front squat. Those are very valuable tools for a jiu-jitsu practitioner that I think we could start incorporating for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that I've noticed as a lowly white belt, right? And I love it. I love being a white belt. I love having that mentality of always a white belt. Even if I, someday attain my blue belt or purple belt or whatever, I'll still have that sort of white belt mentality, because that's, I think, where we learn the most. But I'll tell you, because of my fitness background, and some of it's the combat stuff, but most of it is the fitness background, I'm able to win, matches with blue belts and purple belts. And even every once in a while, if we can go long enough or hard enough, and I can stay out of being choked or get choked 28 times to finally get one submission or something on a brown belt, right? And it's fitness. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah. What I've came to the conclusion of, so I roll jiu-jitsu multiple times a week with local law enforcement. And one of the things that I've found is when you can't breathe, it's very difficult to perform, regardless of how well you're trained. And so the better we can make, in particular, I'm referring to law enforcement, but I just mean this in terms of anybody. If we can enhance their strength and conditioning to the point where they can keep their heart rate under control, they can move at a specific pace, they'll be able to make better, more conscious decisions. And that goes for a jiu-jitsu practitioner as well. So we need to, one of the challenges of jiu-jitsu, and I think, you've probably seen this, the better you get, the easier it is to not throttle it. So when you're really good at jiu-jitsu, those guys, can find their rhythm and find their pace. And because they're so technically advanced, they can get you into dominant positions and hold you there while they recover. But assuming that both partners were, so the challenge is that this person, because they're so technically advanced and they could dominate people, they never really get that like that crazy red line. And so sometimes what we need to do is take them off the mat to get that crazy red line to bring them back onto the mat. Like if you did biking intervals or hill sprints, that's crazy red line. And I wonder what that would do when you get back on the mat.
Yeah, I would even be curious as to what that might do for their cognitive ability, and I think moreover their situational awareness. Like you said before, you are constantly pursuing things that are, put you into adversity or whatever. And I think there's something to be said about that, right? It's like if you now they're under duress, whereas normally they're not because their skill keeps them out of duress, but put them in duress and then put them back in. Does their skill falter, right? Are they making worse decisions? And then obviously, if we can train that, we can get it to a point where even under duress, right, which is huge for the actual, combat person or the person, that's a police person or whatnot, right? You need that. Like if you're under duress and you can't think about situational awareness and making good critical decisions, like chances are you're probably going to either make bad decisions or have fear-based processing, which is going to put you into freeze, flight, or fight, right?
Yeah. Yep. I agree. So it's all part of the picture, but I love jiu-jitsu. I love fitness. I love all the workouts. So, typically I'll do our NCFIT workouts on a regular basis and I'll incorporate jiu-jitsu 3 to 4 times a week.
That's awesome. So what is your rhythm in terms of workout? Are you doing basically the NCFIT programming, and then is there a particular style of that programming? I'm guessing it's CrossFit like, but is there some nuance to that, or what is sort of the bread and butter? And then what are you doing with that? Yeah,
I mean, the way I like to look at it is that we have our roots in CrossFit. There's no denying that. But we've kind of taken a practical approach. And what I mean by that is that when we have thousands and thousands of members that I visit on a daily basis in our gyms, you get a lot of feedback from what type of programming works, what doesn't work, what keeps them excited, what doesn't keep them excited, and a variety of other things. So I would look at what we do as, we have one program called Metcon, which is basically a spin or a slight adjustment on traditional CrossFit. That's more of a practical application based on what we've experienced over the years. Then we have NCX program, which is, so we have NC Metcon, NCX, which is more strength conditioning. We have NC Go, which is just dumbbells, and we have NC Compete. I, on a regular basis, take classes at our gyms, and typically they're NCX or NC Metcon classes. And then I'll take those classes, or I'll do cardio in the morning at my house, and then later on I'll be doing jiu-jitsu. So that's typically what I do. And so most of my workouts are some type of strength component, back squat, lift, press, etc., followed by a 12 to 20 minute conditioning style workout that's high intensity. And then, jiu-jitsu is much more technical for me. So, I don't necessarily need to throttle it as much. I mean, I do, but I need to spend more time working the technique in jiu-jitsu and then throttle my workouts.
Yeah, that's totally makes sense, right? If you have a deficiency in an area, then that's what you're going to go to, and so that totally makes sense. So is this typically 3 times a week, 5 times a week, every day of the week? How do you roll? And I don't mean roll by jiu-jitsu.
Pretty much every day of the week.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much every day of the week. You'll rarely see me. I mean, obviously I'm a big believer in like listening to your body and don't, but this idea of like overtraining, I think is, overtraining concepts is kind of interesting to me. I used to train 3 times a day, every day for a very, very long period of time and very, very hard. Now I train once or twice a day, at, hard, but not like I used to when I was competing professionally. But if I'm not doing something, I don't feel as good. So like on Sundays, maybe I'll go for a long bike ride or I'll do something. But you'll rarely just catch me not doing anything in the day at all. and that's on an ongoing basis. I feel better when I do something.
Yeah, that's an interesting concept. That's something that I've been thinking about recently. It's like you think about humans long time ago. I mean, it was you hunted and you gathered literally every day of the week, because if you didn't, you don't survive.
Every day.
And same with any other species. You look and you see that they're just moving constantly all day long, every day, and they have their periods of rest and things like that. So it is interesting to me. I wonder if we could actually get some longitudinal studies on people like yourself and even people that work right in more impoverished countries and in more impoverished areas. They have to work literally every day to make a buck, to feed their family. So yeah, it is really interesting, this concept of overtraining, which I think exists, but to what degree, right?
Yeah, I think the overtraining conversation is really interesting to me, because you talk about someone who, let's just say, is a laborer, like lays stones, right? Like some type of pavers. That's a very difficult job, very intensive, and it's all day long. And if they don't do it, they're not going to make their wage to feed their family. So they're going to consistently do that, but that's at a specific heart rate, at a specific tempo, for a specific duration of time. I think what I realized over the years is that this idea of overtraining isn't so much about, going on a 30-minute bike ride or whatever. Like, you can still do all those things and keep moving. I think that's super healthy. You don't need to just sit on the couch and watch TV to have a quote rest day. But I think where it gets challenging is if you're constantly really beating up your body. I'm talking like heavy cleans in the morning. And later on in the day, you do like a aggressive CrossFit workout, really aggressive, for like 2 hours with chippers and all kinds of stuff. And then at night, you do a bunch more volume. When you do that type of volume, we're talking like 300-400 squats a day. It just starts to, it starts to break you down a little bit. And I wonder sometimes if I actually toned down my training, if I actually would have been a little bit stronger, because I feel myself now that I don't lift as heavy as often, I'm actually still maintaining quite a bit of strength. And so I don't know how that relates to cardio, but from a strength perspective, I probably think I was lifting too much too often and not allowing the muscles to recover as well. That's just a hypothesis. I have no, it's just an idea.
Yeah, I interviewed Dr. Andy Galpin. We got to get him on that. I'm sure he probably actually has an expert opinion on it right now, if not a research-based opinion as well. But yeah, it is interesting. Obviously, when the soft tissues start going, joints start going, you're not, seeing gains or whatever. There's some sort of overtraining that's happening because there's no recovery. And obviously, age plays a factor, but we can still gain muscle even at our latter years, 60s, 70s, 80s. They're showing this now in studies. So clearly it's not the factor. It is just a factor. So yeah, listening to your body, that would be a pretty interesting take. And so is that what you were doing, the 300 to 400 squats or like lower body type stuff every day?
I mean, when I was really competing, my day would normally schedule out like 30 to an hour in the morning for just like fasted aggressive cardio, right? Like HIIT style cardio, not LS, like not long, slow distance training, but like really, aggressive. Mm-hmm. And then midday would be like a 2-hour session that was much more CrossFit focused, walking your hands, climbing ropes, doing muscle ups, chippers, AMRAPs, EMOMs, you name it. That was midday. And then the evening was much more focused on stamina building. So that's what we're talking about with the squats is I would look at areas that I wanted to build up my muscle stamina, not so much like my pure strength. That the equivalent would be like, if you're doing push-ups, your cardio is fine. Your just muscle just starts to give out. I didn't want that to happen when I was competing at the highest level. So at night, I would put in 10 to 20 minute EMOMs. So every minute on the minute of handstand push-ups, pull-ups, push-ups, things that my muscles fatigued out and I needed to build some level of stamina. So I would do that on a reoccurring basis. And in conjunction with that, I would always add in a minimum of 400 air squats a week. Just for my leg stamina was a really important thing for me because I feel like it carried over into my running, a bunch of different areas. So I would always tax the quads and hamstrings.
Yeah. And then, and so what you're saying is now you're finding with a little bit less, you're still able to retain the strength that you had then, but you're not doing near as much work. Is that the hypothesis?
Yeah, that is the hypothesis. I mean, it's difficult to say, right? Because I'll give you an example. If if you gave me a 135-pound barbell and I did thrusters, so a squat and then a press overhead, or even 95 pounds, right? Back in the day, I'd be able to move that load with a ton of proficiency for a lot of reps. Now, if I wanted to do it for, let's just say like 30 reps, no problem. But if I want to do 135 pounds for 50 reps, it just crushes me. So the moderate load at higher volume, I can't handle as much. 1RMs haven't fallen off that much. So just one rep hasn't fallen off that much. But medium range weight for high volume has definitely fallen off. And I think that probably has to do with the stamina that I'm lacking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that clearly you were putting in a ton of volume to be able to kind of hold a certain amount of stamina. So yeah, and I think at some point, the average listener here, right, they don't have 3 sessions a day in them, right, and all that stuff. It's like most of them, it's like I can figure out 10 minutes a day, or I can figure out 2 to 3 times a week of a strength workout, and maybe add some conditioning in here and there, right? Is that what you find with your clientele as well?
Yeah. 100%. I mean, the way I like to think about our NCX program, it's perfectly designed for someone who comes in 3 days a week and has, 45 minutes to an hour at the gym. If they're on their own, they can get it done a lot faster. But, it's a beautiful combination of strength and conditioning, because I believe, if I had it my way, I think every person in the world should squat once a week, heavy. And when I say heavy, I mean like 5x5, stuff like that. Nothing obnoxious. Pull from the floor once a week, and press overhead once a week. If we could do that at moderate to heavy loads, I'm talking like 5x5s, not 1RMs, and then combine that every day with the 12 to 20 minute high intensity interval workout, I think you'd be pretty damn fit pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's an interesting concept. You just say 1 time per week. So when you say 1 time per week, is that like 3 sets of 10, like the quintessential 3 sets of 10, or the 5x5, or is there a certain set rep scheme that you desire, or is it really just making sure that you're getting after it and getting some sort of adaptation?
I think, squatting, lifting, and pressing once a week is very important at moderate to heavy load. How you do that is kind of up to you, but I love tempo. So I'm a big fan of tempo squats, tempo deadlifts, tempo presses, because you can get good time under tension and muscle development without having to increase such a significant amount of load. It'd be the equivalent of doing maybe kettlebells aren't a great example because they're very dynamic in nature, but if you were just kind of going through ranges of motion at slow tempo, you're really working the strength versus just loading up the system. So especially if you don't have a coach in front of you and you're doing this on your own, I really think tempo is a great way to go, because it also provides you feedback on how you're moving instantaneously.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, tempo definitely shakes up the nervous system a little bit, right? The central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. It's like, oh, I don't have that position very well in that particular range because I'm shaking like a leaf when I slow it down, right? That's huge. Well, Jason, I know we could go on. I want to find out even more about all of your NCFIT collective stuff that you have. I'm looking forward to jumping into that a little bit more. We'd love to have you back on the show at another time to share where things are at now, 6 months, a year later, especially after opening the Mountain View place. And now that COVID seems to be waning away a little bit, winding down a little bit, which is looking good for all the brick and mortars that are out there. And clearly you've done such a great job of creating a virtual addition to your NCFIT collective. But how we finish the show with everybody is we ask them, what is LivingFit to you? And not LivingFit, the brand, but LivingFit, the concept or the idea or the principle.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's really, really simple. It's that fitness should never inhibit what you want or what you need to do. It's that simple, meaning living fit means that if your kids want to go swim, or your kids want to go do something, or if you need to go climb the stairs, if you need to sit on the toilet, if you need to get on the ground and get back up again, you should have the capability to do the things you want to do, right? Whatever that may be, and the things you need to do. That's what I think living fit means.
Man, that's a short and sweet and incredible answer. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate you chopping out time, Jason. I know you're a busy man, and the fact that you flew out to Madison, landed, were able to get a workout in, and then hop on the show. I really appreciate that. We're honored to have you, and I'd love to have you on again.
Hey man, I'd love to be back again, and I want to learn more about the kettlebell competitions. I think that's an area that not many people have exposure to, but yet they do a lot of kettlebell work in our gyms. But we don't talk about kettlebells that much. I mean, we do a little bit, but not the competition side. Not 10 minutes of that. So yeah, I'd love to talk more about that. And thank you so much for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. And you could actually check out Orange Kettlebell Club. So Jason Vasilev, he's from Russia. He's there, as well as John Wild Buckley. They're in Oakland, I believe. So pretty close down the street from where you're at. And they are the bee's knees, the people to go to talk to about kettlebell sport. But I'll hook you up when we hop off.
Let's do it, man. Well, hey, thank you so much for having me. And if anybody wants any more information about NCFIT, the app, anything, you can go check me out on Instagram, Jason Khalipa, or go check out our app. It's available all over the place. Just look up NCFIT.
Boom. Hey, for more interviews like that, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, if you're looking for not only those interviews, but follow along programs, exercise breakdowns, workouts, nutrition plans, and fitness equipment for your fitness results, make sure you hop on to living.fit, become a member today, and I'll see you on the next one.